The Goose Girl, originally written by the Brothers Grimm, rewritten by Cynthia. Once upon a time there lived an old queen, whose husband had been dead for some years and left her with one child, a beautiful daughter. When this daughter grew up, she was to be married to a king's son who lived far away. Now, when the time came for her to leave, the mother gave her daughter a necklace, saying, "Dear child, take good care of this. It will protect you." The daughter put on the necklace. A heartfelt goodbye later, and the daughter was off. Soon she would be with her intended. Along with her on this journey was her horse, Falada. Now, this horse could speak. After she had ridden for about an hour, she became very thirsty, and said to her maid, "Bring me some water from the stream." "If you are thirsty," replied the maid, "go get the water yourself." The princess was very thirsty, so she did go get her own water. She knelt down to drink from the stream, and then said, "My mother's heart would break if she saw me like this." As she leaned over the water, her necklace fell off and into the stream. She did not notice its absence, but her maid had. The maid knew the princess was helpless without its protection. When the princess went to mount her horse, the maid said, "No, Falada belongs to me. You must get on the other horse." The maid had the princess switch clothes with her as well. Then the princess was to promise never to speak a word of what would happen at the king's palace. But Falada, the horse, was watching, listening the whole time. When the two arrived at the king's palace, the young prince ran up to the maid, believing it was her who was his future bride. She was led inside as the princess stayed behind. From a high-up window, the king looked upon the girl. He marveled at her beauty. The king asked his son's bride who this woman from the courtyard was. "Only a girl I brought from home," said the bride. "Make sure she has some chores to do." The old king had no chores to give her, until he had an idea. "There is a boy who keeps geese. She can help him." And so the true princess was sent to help with the geese. Soon after, the false bride asked the young prince, "Dearest, will you grant me a favor?" "Of course," he said. "Have the stable boy release the horse I rode in on earlier. It had angered me on my way here." In reality, she feared the horse might tell someone about her not being the true princess. This came to the ears of the princess, and she promised the stable boy a piece of gold if he would bring the horse to where the geese were kept. Early the next morning, she greeted Falada, who was hidden behind a number of bushes. "What a lovely morning." Falada replied with, "It is, but your mother would cry if she saw you in this state." She and the goosekeeper sat in a meadow next to where they worked. The princess untied her hair, letting it flow down her back. The goosekeeper was so mesmerized by its golden beauty, he tried to take a piece off her head. So she willed the wind to come. Immediately there came a strong gust which snatched the goosekeeper's hat off his head. He gave chase, giving the princess time to arrange her hair so he could not snatch a lock. This made the goosekeeper angry upon his return. For the rest of the day they tended to the geese in silence, as he would not speak a word to the princess. After their return to the palace, the goosekeeper went to the old king and declared he would no longer keep geese with the girl. "Why not?" asked the old king. "She annoys me all day long," said the goosekeeper, and told the king of the way she talked to the bushes as if they were alive. He also told her how he believed she could control the wind. The next day, the old king himself watched from a distance. There he heard the girl talking to the bushes. Then he followed them to a meadow, where he watched the girl will the wind to gust stronger and stronger. Later that evening, he summoned the girl, asking about her strange behaviors. "I cannot tell a soul, for I have promised not to speak of these events." Even after the king asked again, she would not tell him. So instead he said, "If you cannot tell me, then tell the fireplace," and left the room. The princess sat next to the fireplace and started to speak. "I am a king's daughter, made to do duties of a goose girl. I am a false maid. I cannot tell a soul. If my mother saw me like this, she would weep and cry." Meanwhile, the king had been listening from the top of the chimney. He returned to the room when her tale was finished. The princess was placed back into her royal clothes, and the old king called his son in to present his true bride. The young prince was impressed by her stunning beauty. The maid was sent away, and the prince married his intended, and they lived happily ever after. The end.